Welcome to the Experts and Expats podcast. I'm Jeffrey Jones.
And I'm Michelle Hippler. We're co-founders of the Living Abroad Academy. We focus on the information Americans need to plan a move to Europe on a faster timeline than the one we experienced.
We cover all the best visas to explore, along with financial and social considerations that will help you determine what country
or countries
might be the right fit for you and your circumstances.
Absolutely. A country might look great on paper, but not turn out to be what you expected. So we talk to expats about their experiences and experts about their particular expertise in their country.
All with a goal to get you as much information as possible to make an informed decision. Today we're addressing a very popular topic, American immigration to France, and more specifically, the perception that it is not easy. Americans even joke, you hear this, the French don't want us. But France is one of the countries that a lot of Americans dream of moving to, and we hear about it a lot as a first choice. To help us with this topic, today we are so pleased to have a French immigration expert with us. Eleanor Tavares de Peno is with the Lexity Group in their Paris office, where she functions as an immigration lawyer and as the head of Lexity France. Her team is focused not only on French immigration law, but every legal need for relocating to and living in France. Welcome to Experts and Expats, Eleanor.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's a pleasure to be here.
One of the things that caught our attention at the Living Abroad Academy is the number of countries that Lexity offers expertise in. They have offices in key cities across Europe, including Eleanor's Paris office, and you often find that legal groups and other expat services, they usually focus on only one country. So to clarify, today we are discussing the legal side of immigration to France.
So Eleanor, time for the big question. Is it difficult for Americans to move to or legally immigrate to France, like the stories we hear?
I would say no. Most of my clients are American, and honestly, when I compare to other nationalities, it's really not that difficult for Americans to get a French visa. What can be a bit scary, I guess, for people that didn't try or don't know how it works is the paperwork. Because in France, we love paper, we love files, we love forms. So it's there's a lot of little things that you need to be aware of, to tick the case or not to tick the case. So maybe that's why people think that it's difficult. But honestly, as long as you meet all the requirements and that you follow the rules, there shouldn't be any issues, especially for Americans.
Well, that's good to hear. Do you feel that France is a good option for Americans, considering multiple European options? And obviously, it's a wonderful country, right? But just considering the advantages of the process, is it a good option comparing to other countries' processes?
Definitely, yes. And I have to say, well, as we mentioned previously, we do have several offices in different European countries. But I have to say that I am stealing a lot of my colleagues' clients in the other jurisdictions, because in France, we do have some facilities with the visa application. I said that we are very administrative, but apparently when we compare it with Spain, with Portugal, or with Italy, France is okay. So yeah, it's definitely a good option for American people.
So I went through the Spanish process, and there was a lot of paperwork. I really didn't think it was bad. There were a lot of meetings, a lot of things to do, but you're saying that France is potentially simpler than Spain?
Yes, to give you an idea, well, the best-selling product that we have is the visitor visa. It's a one-year visa that people can renew on a yearly basis. And basically, you have three main conditions, and that's all. It's quite easy to meet the requirements. No documents need to be translated. That's something that people always think. Like, I just had a meeting with a potential client just before, and they were saying, okay, can you give me the name of a translator? They were American, both of them. It's a couple. And I answered, no, you do not need to translate anything for the visa application in itself. And if we stick to this visitor visa, I would say that for an American person, in 1 month, we can have everything settled from the moment we start working together to the moment they have the visa in their hands. Of course, it can vary a little bit depending on the period and things like that. But yeah, it's simpler than what it looks like.
Can I ask also the cost, just sort of a ballpark to go through the process? I mean, there's different visas, right? So that's a yes.
Well, there is a government fee of about 99 euros. And now in the US, the company that is managing the visa application just changed. Well, actually, it will be next week from the 15th of April. And the prices will increase a little bit for American people that want to book their visa appointments. But yeah, those are the administrative government costs.
That's really not bad. Of course, your team has your fees too that people can discuss with you, but yes.
Yes, and we work with lump sum, so it's a fixed rate. It's fully transparent.
Very nice.
So around this visitor visa, Eleanor, I was wondering, is this the one where you can renew it for 5 years and then get the permanent resident visa?
Yes, that's the one. But just for you to know, with any type of residency permits or long stay visa that you renew for 5 years, you can apply for the 10-year residency card. And France has no such thing as a permanent residency. The maximum you can get is 10 years, and then you renew it every 10 years. It's not that much difficult.
Okay. And so then is there any path to dual citizenship with France?
Yes. Well, I imagine that what's interesting for you is the citizenship through residency, although we do have other kinds of citizenship for people that were born in France, that have French parents, that are married with French people. But through residency, yes, after 5 years of living in France, you can apply for citizenship through residency, which is called naturalisation. And yeah, well, there are other conditions other than residency, but yes, this is open.
So it sounds like it would be really easy to do the 1 year, right, without having to do a lot of paperwork or translation for 5 years. And then after that 5 years of being a visitor, right, you could go for the citizenship. Is that accurate?
Yes, it's accurate. As long as you meet the requirements for the citizenship application, that's definitely possible.
Just a follow-up. With the visitor visa, does that stipulate that you cannot work in France, or can you come over and be a digital nomad and just go for that visa?
That's a very good question that everyone asks, Michelle. Well,
Okay.
one of the conditions of the visitor visa is that you are not going to be working in France. So you will have to sign a document saying that you are not going to work in France. But if you do not have any links with the French labor law market, you could apply for the visitor visa. I've submitted many times in the American consulate's payslips of American companies so that are not based in France, and it was accepted for visitor visas. So there is some flexibility here, but of course, every situation is particular. So it's really important to get some sound advice before moving.
So did I hear correctly then that you could come over as a digital nomad because you have worked for an American company or a contract with an American company? Did I hear that right?
What is important is not having links with the French labor law markets. But then, yeah, we have to see more in detail each situation.
Eleanor, is the visitor visa and the long stay visa, is that the same thing or are those different?
The long stay visa is a big family, and inside
Okay.
of this big family, you have different visas like the employees, the entrepreneur, and
Okay.
the visit.
Got it.
So we know that there are a lot of different options, visa options for people. I'd like to focus a little bit now on people who are still working, not retired. We know a lot of people like to retire to France. We'll get into that a little bit later. But right now, like especially in the current climate, France is reaching out and actively trying to recruit scientific researchers and other academics to come to them. Now, that kind of a visa would be sponsored by those organizations. What I'd like to talk about are the people who want to do it themselves. They have a job, they're remote workers, they're digital nomads, or they have a business. Can you talk a little bit about those options for those types of people?
Yes, of course. So I would break down all of these different visas because we have many different options depending on what type of job you do, how much you are paid, where is your employer located, etc., etc. But I'll try to simplify it for you. So we can break them down to the employee visa category and the entrepreneur visa category. For the employee, what you need is, of course, being an employee, having a working contract, and your employer usually, also depending on what type of visa you apply for, needs to apply for a working authorization for you. We can help with this authorization as well, but this is the first step. And in order to have this authorization, you need to give a little bit of information regarding what type of contracts will it be, how much the person will be paid, etc., etc. And once we have this, then they can apply for one of the employee visas. Then, depending on the income that they will have in France, they can have a pluriannual residency permit or a 1-year renewable. This is also possible. And then for the entrepreneur, again, we have two options. Either what I call the normal entrepreneur, which has a different name in French. It's called entrepreneur profession libérale, but I hate it because I find it's very confusing. And for this visa, you need to explain a little bit what is your project, submit a business plan, how much you think you will invoice, what kind of clients you will have, etc., etc. This project will be submitted to a special French administration for their opinion on the project. And once we have the opinion, then the person can apply for the visa and travel to France. And there is another option for the entrepreneur, which is the talent visa. So it's for company owners that are willing to invest 30,000 euros in their business in France. And with this visa, you can have more quickly a pluriannual residency permit. Usually we get a 4-year for our clients that apply for this specific company owner visa. And the applicants can bring their family more easily with them. So it's an interesting visa as well. Just a little tip, the talent visa is a big family, and inside of this family, you have different options. You were mentioning people that are scientists or that work for universities. We have a special talent visa for researchers. We have special talent visas for highly qualified professionals, for company owners, and all of them have these advantages of being pluriannual and giving some facilities to bring the applicant's family.
Nice. With those academics or researchers, does it have to be that they are sponsored by some university, or can they just come over and start looking for a job?
No, they should be sponsored in theory, but I mean, every situation is particular. So if something arises, I would advise the person to come to me so we can discuss a little bit their options. Because as I mentioned, we have a lot of different possibilities, a lot of different visa and residency permits. So I'm pretty confident that we can find one or the other that can fit the situation.
Right.
But one last thing that I wanted to say is that you are never stuck with one visa or another. You can come with the visitor, look for a job, you find an employer that sponsors you, and then we can change it to the employee or to the entrepreneur visa, or maybe to other kind of visas.
Wow, that's cool. So what are the income requirements for the visitor visa, for any of the entrepreneur or business owner visas?
So for the visitor, it's the French minimum wage. So either you can show that you have savings or monthly income that it needs to be at least the French minimum wage, which changes all the time. But I think that today we are around 1,007 or 800 euros, something like that per month. And for the entrepreneur, for the visa application, you do not need to show any income. But then after 1 year in France, when you renew your visa, the administration likes to see that you have at least the French minimum wage again.
Awesome. So let's talk about the retirees, or the passive income would be included in the visitor, but is there a special visa for retirees then?
It's the visitor visa.
Oh, okay.
The best option for retirees.
Okay.
Okay, great.
And they don't work, so that's easy.
Nice.
Right.
We all know Americans like to buy things, right? And of course, many Americans, they're going to want to come to France and buy a home. So our question for you is, and assuming they're going to go through a visa process, how complex is the home purchase process? And then possibly related to the 30,000 euro investment, is there some sort of golden visa option as well? You buy a home.
Well, so how complex is it? It is, well, in France, we have the notary, which is a public representative of the states that helps. He handles the whole process of selling and buying houses. It's mandatory to have a notary. Mm-hmm. I have a very good one that speaks English to recommend, by the way. And they check everything, like all the contracts, and see if everything is on track, because they are responsible and liable in front of the states if any mistake is made. Then in terms of buying, well, you need to show that you have the funds, which is normal, but other difficulties, I don't really see it. Except, well, the language barrier. So it's important to find English speakers. That's why a notary that speaks English is a very precious thing, because in France, a lot of people speak French and not other foreign languages. So that's important to have by your side, as well as some real estate agents maybe that can speak your languages. That's definitely a plus. And secondly, in terms of golden visa, we do not have this in France. We do not have residency permit options by investing in real estate. But we do have other things. And as I mentioned, the visitor visa is one of those. And a lot of people that wanted to go to Spain initially find that the process of the golden visa was quite difficult. So at the end, they opt for a very simple and easy visitor visa where you don't have to make such an investment and buy in real estate.
Interesting. So is it the same? I guess a couple of questions. Is it the same process for someone that isn't a resident as it is for someone that is a visa resident, the home purchasing process? And the banks often treat like a non-resident a little bit differently, and that tends to be like larger down payments, or at least that's the Spanish experience, right? Maybe it's the same in France.
I assume that it might be a little bit the same. And actually, I'm working with a firm that is a broker that is specialized with expats that are buying in real estate. And I think that he has a lot of American clients, because also he can be the intermediary, of course, between them and the buyers, and make sure that they don't have any issues with the bank account openings and all of this.
Taxes are often a concern for Americans when they're moving to another country. In fact, there's some people that are obsessed. They might not even consider France, right? They don't like Spain either. But our question for you, what can Americans expect in France as far as taxes? And related, what services do they get for those taxes, and in what time frame do they get the services?
Yeah. Well, in terms of taxes, after 1 year of living in France, you need to declare your taxes in France. Actually, it's when you live 6 months in a year in France, it's mandatory to declare them. This does not mean necessarily that you will need to pay anything, but you will have to declare it, even if your earnings are earned in another country. And in terms of taxation, there is a treaty between the United States and France to avoid double taxation. So that's a good thing to know. So declaring the taxes does not mean necessarily paying them. And every situation is very specific and very different. So that's why we do have in-house tax attorney that can help with all of our immigration clients. We really work together. So I do the visa consultations, and Tanya, our tax attorney, does the tax simulation, so you know well in advance where you go and what you will have to pay or not to the French authorities.
Very nice. What kind of rate can Americans expect, like a ballpark percentage? Is that easy to determine? No?
Really depends on the person's situation and how much they earn, and if they fall within the treaty or not, and what kind of assets they have. It really depends on a lot of factors.
So as far as accessing, for instance, public health care and services like that, does that happen immediately after you're a visa resident, or is there a waiting period?
After 3 months of living in France, so under a long-stay visitor visa, long-stay visa, any of those, you can apply for the to register in the French healthcare system. It takes time, so be prepared. It's a journey. It takes months to get answers from them, but eventually you will get there. And yes, that's definitely something that I recommend our clients to do once they arrive in France.
Hey there, just a reminder that you can learn more about moving to Europe at livingabroadacademy.com.
Sign up for our newsletter and stay up to date on our latest podcasts, events, and more.
You can also submit questions and ideas for future podcasts on the website.
We appreciate you being a part of our community. Thanks again for joining us.
And now, back to the show.
Going back to the visas again, and say that people have stayed for 5 years or have done the 10-year and then they want to apply. Do you find that Americans who have spent time in the country and qualify to either get the permanent or the citizenship, the dual citizenship, do you know that they're really doing this? The follow-up question then is, if so, like what percentage, and maybe it's specifically, do you work with anyone who's doing this? Can you tell just by what work you're getting?
Yes, I do have a few cases like this. In terms of percentage, it's really difficult to say because everyone does not wish to apply for French citizenship. Some do, but others are very happy with their residency permit. So I struggle to give you a percentage, but I see that many American people apply for French naturalization. It's very interesting because you have access to the Schengen area, as opposed to having a residency permit that is linked to one specific European country. So it gives a lot of advantages for sure. What is important to know is that you need to meet all the requirements, among which, apart from the 5 years of living in France, you need to show that you speak French, that you have at least the B1 level. So that's not that much, but still you need to be able to have a conversation, and you need to know French culture, the French values, and all of this. And something that the administration likes to see is that all your center of interests are based in France. Which includes paying taxes in France, or at least declaring your revenue. They like to say that your family have ties with France as well, things like that.
So the mood is really changing in politics worldwide right now. It's really a little bit, well, I'm going to say it is chaotic. And it's been precipitated by our country. So, we've always heard that, at least in Paris, they're a little bit anti-American. The rest of the country, maybe not so much. Have you noticed a shift in that, like a sort of a mindset against the Americans, or is it more against the government, which we should keep separate, maybe?
Yeah, I don't think that there is an anti-American spirit in France. At least I've never seen that. I think that people can make the difference between, yes, the political decisions that come from America and American people, especially if they are in Europe, in France. Maybe sometimes because of the cultural difference, people can get puzzled when they are in front of a French person, because, for instance, French people really like that the other person speak French, and sometimes this is difficult with American. They will struggle to learn the language. So sometimes you can have this type of comments that I heard, that it's difficult to interact with them. But apart from that, no, I think that there is no anti-American positions. No.
Excellent. A lot of people ask about this. How much is French language fluency a part of the immigration process requirements? And then also, you mentioned something earlier. Are the documents and communications only in French?
So the French language fluency, well, for a visa application, we are not expecting you to speak French. So you do not have to prove any type of level in French in order to get here. Then for certain visa categories, when you want to have a pluriannual residency permit, they will ask you to pass a very simple French test, but it's not B1, it's much less than that. But that's really for certain categories. For instance, when I mentioned earlier the Italian visa, you can get a 4-year residency permit without having to pass any type of French classes. Then when it comes to citizenship, of course, it's very important to show that you are part of France, so that you speak French. So this is very important. As well, when you apply for the 10-year residency card, you need to show as well that you are able to run a conversation in French. So, and yes, all the documents and communications are in French. I mentioned that French people really, they are very proud of their language and their culture, and they don't often speak other languages. So everything is in French, and French people have a tendency to expect that everyone else will speak French. So sometimes this is a struggle for foreigners.
So what would be your recommendation for an expat, a non-French expat wanting to join French society? Your recommendations on language? And I think you already answered this, but...
Yeah, that's really the first step, is to speak French, to be able to have a conversation with the other person. This really will make a difference if you try to integrate the French society and the French culture. This will be a plus. French people are very proud of their language, their culture. Yes. So you have to try to blend in as much as possible.
And we think for any country, it's only courteous to have basic language skills, right? To communicate with people. I mean, you're in a different culture, and French is a wonderful language too.
Yeah, it's a beautiful language. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we've reached the section of the podcast now when we want to hand it over to you, Eleanor, to tell us about what Lexity offers expats, maybe starting in particular with France first. What are the services for France? But then go into like all the other countries that you actually work with too.
Yes, of course. So we are a legal tech law firm and we are specialized mainly in immigration and relocation. So we try to provide a comprehensive support on your relocation journey, trying to be as much as possible a one-stop shop and help from the visa applications to tax consultation before your move to France. And then, of course, the healthcare registration, why not company formation, or even exchanging your foreign driver license to a French one. And then later in time for naturalization, so nationality through residency. Another service that we offer in France and that is very requested is the French citizenship through descent. We have also a lot of Americans that have a French ancestor and they try to retrieve their French nationality. So this is another thing that we do a lot. And regarding the other countries, so we are present in Portugal, in Spain, in Greece, in Italy, in Mexico as well. And well, immigration is always our main activity, everything that is related to relocation, immigrating into one of those countries. But we also have corporate department, tax departments, real estate departments in Greece, in Italy, and in Portugal and in Spain. And even we can also help with global mobility and labor.
I have one question. You mentioned driver's license. I know that some countries are just much more difficult than others to get the driver's license. I know in the Netherlands, it's almost like impossible, and in Italy too, because they require language and it's a very difficult test. And in the Netherlands, it's very expensive also. So what is it like in France to get a driver's license?
Well, there is no language test, but something super important to know is that you need to apply for the exchange within your first year in France. I always have clients that have been in France for more than a year and ask me, okay, can I change my driver license? And that's too late. So you have to pass the French test, well, written and the practice. So that's really a difficult thing to go through, especially if you don't know the language. But if you do have, well, if you exchange it during this 1 year window, that's feasible. But then be careful because not all of the US driving license can be converted into a French one. It depends on the states that issues the driving license because we have agreements with some states, but not with all of them. So yes, that's something to keep in mind.
That is very good information.
I know.
And to confirm the tests, all, of course, I think you said this, it's all in French.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, if you don't exchange it, yes.
Okay. Oh, so that's a different process, just an exchange. Okay.
Mm-hmm. The exchange is just an administrative process that, for instance, we can do for you, but you do not need to do any test or nothing, and you do not need to speak French. But if you have to pass the normal French driving license like everyone else, yes, it's in French.
Okay. In Spain, I do have an English option. I just learned that, but I don't have that exchange option you talked about. That's very nice. I have to do the whole thing. So thank you, Eleanor. It's been a wonderful chat. I know I've learned things. Hopefully everyone did. A lot of great information. We wanted to add, Lexity has kindly extended a special offer to all of you, our listeners. You will save 10% when you contact Lexity and mention the code ABROAD10. Check out this episode's text description for more details about that. You can also go to Lexity.com to get started.
And Eleanor, thank you again for sharing your expertise and information about Lexity with us today. We really appreciate the time, and the information was great.
Thank you, Michelle and Jeffrey, for the opportunity of being here. It was very nice to speak with you, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eleanor.